So we've talked about this idea of inferring, okay? And we're going to do this. This is me right now. As I read through this passage, I'm going to be looking for textual clues, especially the ones that can kind of connect with something floating around up in my mind, some kind of schema that I might be able to access, okay? Manny, you right-click, you highlight your name and right-click, and it'll say comment, okay? But you can do that in a minute. Focus on this right now. Okay, so I'm going to be applying this kind of formula in my head, looking for the textual clues, looking for the quotes, and they're going to have a focus. I'm really going to be looking for textual clues about Liesel. Okay, that is like a key thing here. Oh, that's a horrible color. I've really got to focus on finding what extra stuff can I figure out about Liesel based on reading this. Okay. And I'm going to have to access that schema, that prior knowledge about things like Nazism, propaganda, just even my general knowledge about people. Okay. So I'm going to make some comments as I go through. I'm going to try to use these sentence starters. You see, people may tell you that Nazi Germany was built on anti-Semitism, a somewhat overzealous leader, and a nation of hate-fed bigots. But it would all have come to nothing had the Germans not loved one particular activity, to burn. So I know that death is kind of narrating here. I can make an inference up here, and this isn't so much about Liesel, but here the reader can infer that this overzealous leader is Hitler because he was well known, renowned was probably a better word, renowned as a passionate speaker and, leader of Germany. Okay, so that just kind of helps me know what they're talking about. All right, to burn. The Germans loved to burn things. Shops, synagogues, Reichstags, houses, persons. So Reichstags, there's I remember we watched that video about we watched that video about Nazism. Okay, and it talked about the rise of the Nazis, and that's kind of what's being referred to there. Synagogues, I know that they destroyed a lot of Jewish buildings and kind of property during some of the purges and some of the violence. So that's kind of helping me understand what's happening here. They love to burn things, shops, synagogues, Reichstags, houses, personal items, slain people, and of course, books. They enjoyed a good book burning, all right, which gave people who were partial to books the opportunity to get their hands on certain publications that they otherwise wouldn't have. So we got a bit of a tricky sentence, which gave people who were partial to books. Okay, so that's one bit. The opportunity to get their hands on certain publications that they wouldn't otherwise have. So that he's saying here that, people who were partial to books, who liked books, finally got an opportunity to get some books that they wouldn't have usually been able to get. Okay, and before I can read any further, I can immediately make an inference. Okay, this suggests that Liesel is one such person who is, passionate about books or is interested in reading, maybe forbidden books. This suggests that Liesel is one such person who is interested in reading forbidden books because death describes people who are partial to books. Okay, so that's him kind of referring to Liesel. And then he tells us immediately, one person who was that way inclined, as we know, was a thin-boned girl named Liesel Memminger. Thin-boned. I can sort of make an inference about maybe her appearance here. Here, the reader can infer that Liesel is maybe underfed and maybe maybe a little bit, and not fully grown up. Because she's described as thin-boned. Okay, now it's really important as I'm making these inferences, using these sentence starters helps me kind of tie it all together. I get to make the inference, infer that, shows the reader that, but I also explain it by using this because. Okay, and that's where I want to use the quote usually and explain perhaps what my prior knowledge is. So, you know, he was a renowned and passionate speaker. That's my prior knowledge being added after that because word. She may have waited 463 days, but it was worth it. At the end of an afternoon that contained much excitement, much beautiful evil, one blood-soaked ankle and a slap from a trusted hand, Liesl Memminger attained her second success story. Now, I know already, okay, that this is referring to hearts. Okay, I know I've read the book. Okay, but it tells me about Liesl's relationship with hearts. Okay, so we could write, this suggests to the reader that Liesl has a close relationship with her new foster father, because even though he slaps her, it comes from a trusted hand. Okay, now it's little quotes. I'm just picking out little quotes for the most part. Okay, thin-boned, partial to books, overzealous leader. They're small ones because I'm focusing really closely on just like small textual clues. Liesl Memminger attained her second success story, The Shoulder Shrug. It was a blue book with red writing engraved on the corner, and there was a small picture of a cuckoo bird under the title, also red. When she looked back, Liesl was not ashamed to have stolen it. On the contrary, it was pride that more resembled that small pool of felt something in her stomach. That's a bit, I don't know what's happening there. That small pool of, let's say small pool felt something in her stomach. That doesn't even make, that more resembled, I'm just going to change that. What she felt in her stomach, that works. But I'm going to make an inference here. Like pride, why does she feel pride? And it was anger and dark hatred that had fueled her desire to steal it. So this, I can make an inference here that she's feeling quite kind of rebellious. She's kind of like standing up to Nazism, to the Nazi regime. Okay, so I'm going to use, again, my sentence starters here. The reader can infer that Liesl feels a sense of rebellion or rebelliousness when she takes the book, because she feels pride and anger and dark. Oh, actually, let's go. She feels pride that is fueled. Ooh. Fueled by her dark hatred of Hitler. Okay, so this is my inference over here. It doesn't have a whole lot of background knowledge, but I guess the background knowledge is that I know that when people are rebellious, they're usually kind of angry about something, or especially angry at a government or a regime. Okay, and I might add that towards the Nazi regime. Chuck that word in there that we picked up the other day. Okay, so that's how I'm going to kind of go through and make these inferences today. Well, just leave it. All right, so we end up with those as our examples. I'm going to ask that you guys spend the rest of this session doing exactly this with a few passages, again, about Liesl. Okay, we're always looking at Liesl today.